Hey y'all. So I had this topic that has been on my heart today, and I figured I'd share it with y'all. Um, so in social work, I basically learned a phrase that has carried with me throughout my experience, whether in the field or in my life or when I'm doing videos. But basically, the quote says, "You have to meet people where they're at." And a lot of people don't know what that means. And this can apply to whether you're speaking to somebody about religion, whether it's education, whether it's life issues, no matter what topic it is, you have to be able to meet a person where they are. Sometimes we try to get people to meet us where we are. And this is for people who are actively trying to reach out to certain people, to get people to, get the point, or to believe in God, or to, be more healthier, or to learn about experiences of different people, minorities, history. Is when you're trying to give a different perspective. But you have to understand that everybody is at a different place in their life. And if they're not at the point that they need to be to understand and hear what you're saying, they're going to completely miss the point. So how do you meet somebody where they're at? Sometimes we have expectations. Like if you're having a conversation and you're talking about God or talking about the Bible or talking about the Quran, and it's like you're so argumentative and you're trying to give facts. If that other person has completely already dismissed it or has had bad experiences in the past, or maybe they were raised a certain way, they're really not going to hear you. And that's why people get to the point where it's like, oh, you're depressed, you're this, oh, just pray about it, just do this, just do that. For some people, that's not an option. So how do you steer them on that path? And is it even your job to do that? I mean, in my opinion, this is just opinion, our job is to plant seeds, right? The reason we talk to people, the reason we help people, the reason we even have conversations are to plant certain seeds. They might not get it at that moment in time, but one day they might reflect on it. One day it might click to them, but they have to go through the things that they have to go through in order to get there. For example, if I have two people in front of me, right? And one person is 10 steps away and the other person is 50 steps away, and I'm talking to them both about the same thing. The person that is closest to me might be able to hear everything I'm saying. They know how to get to me. They have perception. They can say, oh, this is an easy path. I get what you're saying. I'm right there with you. But the person that's 50 steps away might be like, I don't know what you're talking about. For one, I can't even hear you. For two, I'm not risking my life walking from here to there. And for two, even if I was, I don't even know how to. So it's like, how do you expect somebody to come 50 steps to you when you're the one that's supposed to have the knowledge, the experience, the education, the whatever, the faith that you need to walk up to them at least halfway and say, hey, I've been through this. This is how I got here. This is why I do this. This is why I believe that. When you start to challenge people and educate them and be compassionate and be loving and coming from a place of actually wanting to teach somebody or share with somebody, it changes. When you come from a place of all-knowing and non-accepting and a place from deeply rooted cultural hate, how can you ever expect somebody to listen to you? Because when you come from that perspective, it turns off all logic and turns on all emotion. So if you're trying to get somebody to get a point, why don't you try coming from a place of love and meeting them where they are? If you go up to that person and you teach them the tools, you show them what you've been through, you provide that evidence and that support, and you show them the way, maybe next time they'll be a little bit closer. They'll take 2, 3, 4 steps at a time. They'll take the journey that they are supposed to take. I know that we seem to think that we got all the answers and we know everything or whatever the case may be, but at the end of the day, what did Socrates say? Socrates said the wisest man knows that he knows nothing at all. So when you have that ego that's telling, oh, I know this, I know my religion is right, I know my way is right, I know that being a vegan is the right thing, I know that the history that's in the history books is the right thing, I know that my opinion on politics is the right opinion. No, there is no right or wrong or black and white. Everything is a gray area. And it can change. One year you could be thinking one thing, and the next year you're thinking a completely different thing. That's why I told people when the whole presidential debate was coming up and people like, oh, what about what such and such did 80 years ago? I'm like, are people allowed to grow and to change their perception? And maybe they're doing it for their own personal gain. I can't be the decider of that. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit. And sometimes the best way to actually get somebody to understand and to learn is to be quiet, to learn how to listen. The number one thing in communication is watching not just the verbal, but the hands, the nonverbal, the facial expressions, how people act, because people can tell you anything, but it's really what they do and the actions they show you that are actually a reflection of their character, what they're willing to comprehend and not comprehend. A lot of people's logic hides behind experience and emotions and trauma and things that they've been through. And if you're not able to break those things down to be able to get to the root of the problem, you're never going to get to the next point of where they can actually hear you and understand you and have that love and gratitude. Like, with certain things, you can learn and grow from anything or anybody. It doesn't mean you have to accept it or go into their religion or go into their beliefs or whatever the case may be. But that doesn't mean that you can't take something from that conversation. It doesn't mean you can't learn something from that person just because they don't live the same life as you. If you are so compassionate about learning and growing and teaching and sharing with people, then you have to be willing to do the same thing. You have to be able to come from a place from love and come from a place of compassion and know that the main purpose of everybody on this earth is to love, is to come together, and the lack of that is the cause of all the issues. Like, name one issue that doesn't stem from negativity in a person. The key to communication is being able to validate someone else's experience. That means saying, you know, I understand where you're coming from, like understanding their feelings, taking the time to validate whatever it is they're saying, where they're coming from, whether you agree with it or not. After you give that person validation and say, you know what, I hear you, and you're not coming from a place of, oh, I'm about to cut you off, cut your sentence off, I don't agree with you, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. Like, everybody who's talking to you does not want your advice nor your suggestion. Sometimes they just want you to listen. And if you don't learn how to listen and to validate other people's experiences and to take it in and say to yourself, okay, this person is not where I am, but just maybe I can learn from them. Maybe they actually have something to say, instead of having these preconceived notions that because a person is not living the life you're living or not believing in the things that you're believing in or not doing the things that you would do makes them disqualified or invalidated, because it doesn't. And if you actually do care about that person or people in general and want to make a difference, you have to start by meeting people where they're at.